Hello, everybody. This is Robert Aceves, and we're starting a new episode of mindfitpodcast. And I'm here with Neil Babins. How you doing, Neil?
I'm doing great. How about yourself?
I'm doing really good, considering the situation that we're all going through right now. I feel like this week has been kind of intense for me. How was your week?
Intense as well. A lot of work and a lot of clients reaching out with, amplified issues. And I think it's coming to, I wouldn't necessarily say a crisis point for everyone, but close to it. So it's been very tense. It's been very, draining for a lot of people and for myself as well. It's been a challenging week. I think more challenging than ever before, and I think we're reaching a new point in people's breaking points. So even though things are opening up a little bit around town, I think that there's a lot of potential energy built up also with the current current events going on. I think that amplified things as well, and it's been tough. It's been a tough week.
Yeah. Same here. We were talking earlier, and one of the things I was telling you is that this week I've had a few clients that ended up going to the hospital for multiple reasons, but for the most part is anxiety. A lot of anxiety going on around, and yes, a lot of my clients have also tried to reach out quite a bit, and it's draining, yes. And so today we thought maybe we'll talk a little bit about that and maybe give you some tools so that you can practice at home. One of the other podcasts that I do in Spanish, we have an episode we did a couple of years ago, and it's one of the most viewed episodes or listened to episodes. And basically the episode is about positive affirmations, mantras, and it's really useful. And so I'm going to try to translate some of that stuff to English and hopefully it works out. But do you use positive affirmations with your clients, Neil?
Well, at times I certainly do. I mean, a lot of it depends upon the client, their personality, and what approach works best for them. But, studies have shown that positive change occurs when you use daily affirmations, especially when you sort of fall off the wagon, unquote, from a habit that you're trying to alter, and you're feeling unmotivated from something that you started to do, but then you sort of slipped, a couple steps back. So one way or another, we do use affirmations, whether we use them directly in terms of actually using them as per se, or indirectly. In other words, we remind ourselves that we're on the right track. We remind ourselves what we want to choose to focus on, to extract the good from what we have done, from what we have done before, from what we know is possible. So we reframe things a lot, reframe thinking, reframe situations. So a lot of that is positive affirmation, sort of within the realm of what it's supposed to be doing. So it's either direct positive affirmations sometimes that works for clients, and sometimes it's a question of sort of being creative about how you approach it and how you integrate it into the work. So the answer is basically yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like, and I bring this up because when it comes to our health, a lot of people tend to feel that it's really important, and I feel like it is very important, which is why when we feel sick or we feel like something's off, we tend to go to the hospital right away, or we tend to, look up a doctor or try to find some kind of solution or a pill or something. Well, positive affirmations for me, I've been using them pretty much most of my adult life, and since I started meditating. And I think, like you said, I think we all use them in some way or another. I can tell you, for example, the most common affirmation that we all use is "I don't know." Most people use that all the time, like, "Oh, I don't know," and we repeat that over and over. And one thing I learned in my improv class years ago is that when you say that, you sort of start to lock your mind up, and you start to think that you don't know. And if you change that simple thing to "I do know," and you start, allowing yourself to know things and to investigate, and when you do improv, you're supposed to learn from any subject. There's no limit to what you can learn, because when you're on stage, you're supposed to know everything, right? And you become like the master of the world in that stage. Well, it is very helpful. And I know, there are things that we may not know that is true. However, if we are open to learning about them, then we can learn about them. And maybe, we're not experts on certain fields, but if we study them and we learn from them, we can eventually become experts on that. But anyway, the point is, positive affirmations can actually start changing our minds and eventually can have an effect on our bodies and literally change our molecular structure simply by repeating a phrase over and over. Sometimes it's also a sound. It doesn't have to be a phrase. Like one of the most used mantras is Om, and it's basically just a sound like Om. So when you see like the monks meditating and they go Om, that's a mantra. That's a vibration that you're creating, and by doing it over and over, and this is where the healing part comes into positive affirmations, is when you repeat something over and over, then it starts to make you vibrate in a different frequency. So when we start with a mantra, for example, you could say, I love myself, right? For those who have issues trying to love themselves, and you start saying, I love myself. When you say it the first time, the first few times you might feel weird, like, oh, do I really love myself? Or you might start getting that, that chatter that comes in the background saying, oh, you don't deserve to be loved, or you may be getting all the images from people in the past who have said, oh, you don't deserve love, or things like that. But if you continue to say it over and over, eventually you start to create that vibration into your body, into your mind, into your heart, and then eventually you start to feel the love, and you can feel that phrase over and over into your system until eventually it becomes a norm in your life that you do love yourself, and eventually that becomes a reality. And that's usually how positive affirmations work. The idea is repetition. You got to repeat it over and over and over, and it it really doesn't matter what kind of phrase you make, as long as you make it in a thing that you feel like you need, and something that you want to accomplish into your life. So I don't know if I'm making sense, by the way.
No, you're making a lot of sense. I mean, you're speaking right into a lot of things that are very universal, because as we grow older, as we become adults, I talk about this a lot with my clients, it becomes harder and harder to change your thoughts, to change your beliefs, to rewire your brain. What's called neuroplasticity is a real thing, neurogenesis, meaning that new neurons and new neural connections within your brain are possible to happen, which could literally change the way you think about yourself and the world. Your core beliefs, your thought processes, what's automatic to you can literally be altered. But like you're saying, it does take a lot of repetition and retraining of the brain, especially as we grow older. When we're kids, it's really easy for the brain to rewire itself. That's what I tell a lot of people. A lot of what you are living by, your beliefs, your emotions, your automatic responses and reactions to things, have been solidified in your childhood and in your adolescence, because that's when your brain was first coming together. The original neuroplasticity of your brain was first forming. And it's much easier for a kid to change that neuroplasticity in the moment. It becomes much more difficult once it's calcified as an adult. So you have to take a certain amount of time and a certain amount of repetition, a certain amount of commitment to actually alter that. And like you said earlier, I wanted to piggyback on what you said about the I don't know. That's a big one. That's a big one for people. I don't know. And then saying to yourself, to begin to rewire that, saying, pretend you do know. That's what my intervention would essentially be around those lines. Pretend that you do. Even if you're making it up, even if it's hypothetical, even if it isn't the answer, pretend that you do know, and then allow your brain to start lifting the weight, so to speak, as if it's going to the gym. And even if it's not the right weight, just let it start to exercise itself and pretend that you do know. And you'll notice that something pops up, something from the digital database, that when you were a kid that took in all the information of the world, all the emotional information of your world, will start to get stimulated. And you'll start to realize that you, in fact, do know. It's just that the I don't know became a protective shield to cover you up so that you didn't have to confront what was in the database. Because what was in when we were kids, whatever we took in terms of thoughts and beliefs and emotions, although it was easier to change, it was also a lot more powerful and potent at that age, because we take in things really powerfully. So as we become adults, we don't want to revisit all that. So we develop ways around it. I don't know is a perfect one, you know. And yeah, but neuroplasticity is possible, and positive affirmations, whether they be words, or whether they be prayer, or whether they be beliefs, or even actions over and over and over again, can slowly restructure the automatic ways that you think and behave. So it's, yeah, I agree, absolutely. It can be really, really powerful. Mm-hmm.
And another one that a lot of people use all the time is when they are late. They always say, "Oh, I'm always late. Oh, I'm always late." They repeat that over and over, and that tends to become a reality. Like you start to become late because and we don't realize it. Like you said earlier, it's all subconscious that we just say it. Oh, I'm always late. Or there are people who constantly have accidents, and when they have an accident, they go, "Oh yeah, this always happens to me. This always happens to me." Or something negative always has to happen to me. Or I'm always falling down. Or I'm always this. I'm always that. And that's an affirmation. It's not positive. It's an affirmation that we're saying over and over, and we repeat it every time, and then it happens, and then we confirm, this always happens to me. I'm always late. So if we start changing that simply by being conscious of it and say, okay, instead of saying that, I'm going to say, next time, I'm going to be on time, or just start repeating, I'm always on time. I'm always on time. At first, we're not going to believe ourselves. We're going to be like, no, of course, you're always late. But if you keep saying it, eventually, with emotion, with a feeling, and obviously if you want to improve yourself in that sense, then eventually you can start to be on time. You can start to actually understand things and say, yeah, I do know this. And I agree with what you said about, how you start once you start allowing yourself and just imagining that maybe you do know, then things start to come up, and then you start learning, and you start seeing that maybe it is possible to improve on certain areas or certain things in our lives. And like I mentioned earlier too, it's a frequency. So we start vibrating in a different, frequency, and we start thinking differently, and things start to come up. It's just like it's a sort of coming back to life in some ways, especially if you've been like depressed and you feel really down, and you feel like the world is going down, and it's going to disappear soon or something like that, and you feel that way. Then if you start changing that and simply say, okay, I'm going to focus on the positives, and start saying something like, the world's getting better every day, or one of my favorite phrases that I tell people all the time is, every day, in every aspect of my life, I am improving more and more. And if you start repeating that every day, in every aspect of my life, I am improving more and more. And that kind of has an umbrella, and it means every aspect of your life, and you start working on that. Now the idea is, I know a lot of people are probably going to listen to this podcast and be like, oh yeah, that's a great idea. It sounds amazing, blah, blah, blah. But then 2 or 3 days from now, they're going to forget about it and just go, move on to their lives. But the idea is to have something that we can continue to practice on a regular basis. And this phrase, every day in every aspect of my life, I'm improving more and more. You can literally use that for years. You just keep practicing it every day. And the idea is to practice it, at least 200 times a day, while you're walking, working, talking to people, in the background of your mind, you just keep repeating the phrase over and over. Another one, that I still run marathons, but back when we were able to run the OC marathon here in Orange County, they canceled it this year, but actually, no, they moved it to November, so hopefully it stays that way. But when I run marathons, I there's a point where you start feeling like the world's coming on you and you just can't move anymore. So I started this phrase that says, yes, I can. As simple as that. Yes, I can. And then I repeat that to myself as I'm running, even though my body's like done. Well, it's funny because my body starts to pick up. It starts to feel that, yes, I can. And then just by focusing on that phrase and repeating it in my mind over and over as I'm running, I found that, I run faster. And I've actually made, when I started using this phrase years ago, I improved my marathon by 20 minutes, which, 26.2 miles, and you improve 20 minutes. That's a huge difference. That's almost 1 minute per mile, which is pretty good. And just simply by repeating that phrase, yes, I can. And that's simple how positive affirmations can be applied into your life, and it could be with anything, literally. So,
yeah,
What do you think?
Well, yeah, I mean, absolutely. A lot of people stop because of one setback. A lot of people, if they're running a marathon or if they're doing whatever they're doing, because life is a marathon, and they have one little setback, they'll say, I can't do it, or see, I told you it doesn't work, or I tried, or, I tried and failed, or, and they stop. They literally stop because they tell themselves things automatically that are part of their core belief that are more negative. People use, like, I can use an example of being on a diet, for example, trying to lose weight. People might look at, I tried, it doesn't work, I just feel I'm depriving myself. I have motivation for a few days and then all of a sudden I slip and I stop, as opposed to reframing how you're thinking about it. It's supposed to, that it's a concept of lacking or deprivation, or that you're starving yourself, or that you're depriving yourself, or punishing yourself, or shaming yourself, or I could never look like that even if I try. Rather than saying, my body is a temple, I'm more concerned about my health than I am about the food. I'm grateful that I was able to lose a few pounds. I do look better. I can see the difference. I can feel the difference. I can fit into a size smaller. Just like you said, 20 minutes of a marathon, or one size smaller in a pant or a dress or whatever it is you're doing. If you focus on that, that will also send a different signal through your body. That'll also send a different signal through your mind. And they'll create the kind of neuroplasticity that we're talking about. And I often say to people, if you say, I can do it, yes, I can, it's what I call putting B before A. First we first try to arrange and achieve an A, like I become a great runner, and then I can finish the marathon. But what if you imagined yourself or as a great runner, or took away all the obstacles? Imagine that all the obstacles to running the full marathon, or completing the diet, or doing whatever it is you're going to do, were already there. All the challenges, all the blocks, all the issues, all the problems, all the things that get in your way were not there. Imagine them not being there. And people will say, but they are there. But imagine that they're not, right? And then how are you thinking differently? How are you behaving differently? How is your thought process different? How is your attitude different if the problems were not there? I mean, look at it this way. If someone's ignorant to a problem, right, then they don't know the problem is there. Then they act as if it's not there. Now, you might say, but that's ignorance. I know, but we're being ignorant about a problem. So, we want to achieve something. So if you choose ignorance to your own problem, and you'll see your thoughts, your behaviors, your actions will start to shift, and you'll be able to run faster or longer. You'll be able to achieve more personal projects that you thought were impossible before, because you'll start to think differently. And once you think differently, your brain doesn't know the difference and doesn't care. It'll start creating that neuroplasticity based on how you're thinking in a different way. So continuing to affirm that on a daily basis is important, because again, a lot of people try to change something about themselves, and again, because they're adults by this point, usually they have this automatic way of doing something, and it's very difficult to untangle and to rewire it. So they figure it's not possible because I've tried several times and I didn't do it, or I failed, or it was too hard. But the idea is that it does take that effort to rewire that brain, and it's going to be an ongoing process. But you'd be amazed just putting B before A, right? It's just as you saw with your
it's really and when it comes to mantras, one thing I love, and by the way, they're used all over the world. This is not something that we just invented right now. No, it's something that has been used for years, probably thousands of years. One of the most famous ones that I know in Buddhism is Om Mani Padme Hum, which is, you say those words and you don't even know what they mean, but you just repeat them over and over. Om Mani Padme Hum, Om Mani Padme Hum. And it's like a song, and you repeat that over and over. Om Mani Padme Hum. And by doing that, the repetition eventually puts you in this trance, and that trance puts you in this spiritual mode that you sort of feel like all the parts of your body and your spirit and your mind are coming together into one, and that's the idea. And a lot of times, we just basically have to focus on the thing we want. One of the things that I recommend that has helped me the most is by saying a word or a phrase of the thing that I want as if it's already happened. So, like a lot of people say sometimes, like, oh, I'm fat. Yeah, okay, that could be true, but what we want is to be thin. So I can say I'm thin. And, you start repeating that. I am thin. I am thin. And yeah, some people would say like, oh yeah, right. And just because you're saying it, suddenly I'm going to start getting thin. No, it's probably not going to happen right away. But what happens is if you start repeating that, you start getting into the mindset of a thin person. And then eventually maybe you start feeling like you don't want to eat those cakes anymore, or the ice cream, or you start eating healthier, and things like that start to happen. But you have to believe, right? You have to start with the belief and saying, okay, that I am going to change that by simply reframing my mind and just repeating the phrase over and over until it becomes a reality, until you start to feel that reality. And it's like a prayer, like you said, but it's prayer that you create for yourself, for the thing that you want to improve in your life, and then you say it over and over. And the repetition part of it is the most important, because the more you repeat something, the more it becomes a reality. If you're a salesperson, for example, you could start saying, I'm selling my quota, and then say the amount of money that you have to sell, and you say that over and over. And I've practiced this before, by the way, with my clients, where the person's sitting there and they're telling me all their problems, and I'm saying a mantra in my mind of, this person is going to pay me this much, over and over, as they're, I'm obviously trying to listen, of course, to the client, but I'm also repeating that in my mind. And there's some kind of magical thing that happens where the person starts to react, and somehow my subconsciousness brings up the exact words that I need to say in order for that person to pay me that amount, and it works, and it's just, that's just a little example, but there's multiple things you can use this mantra for in your life, especially for things that can help you improve your health. Think of things that make you feel better, that could make your life more meaningful, that could benefit your life in multiple ways. But there's really no limit to how you can use this positive affirmation. So.
Yeah, absolutely. And another trick that, I shouldn't call it a trick, but an approach, people could use is, I like what you said, that, a lot of the times, like, negative thoughts will start to come back, like, oh, I can't make that sale quota. I've never made that sale quota before, or I can't do this. Or like you said, it's not like you think I'm thin, so suddenly you become thin. It's not wishful thinking. It's not, and I don't like this phrase. It's not fake it till you make it. That's not it either. You're not faking anything. You're not wishful thinking. You're not doing wishful thinking. What you're doing is you are shifting what you're focusing on. You're shifting the fact that you have a positive possibility within a negative framework. So one thing I often tell people is, imagine somebody meets you for the very first time, and you're thinking of yourself as not a thin person, or not somebody who can make a lot of sales, or not somebody who's been capable in the past of doing it. There's a negative underlying thought process. But you meet somebody fresh for the first time, doesn't know you. They have a view of you that is neutral. They've just met you. They smile, they shake your hand, they make eye contact. They don't know you from anything. They don't have any evidence in their mind for your past. They have no understanding of your evidence for yourself. Whatever your self-framework is, whatever your self-thought process is, whatever your self-identity is, whatever your belief about yourself is, they have no idea. So imagine they're the canvas, and you're going to put thoughts about yourself into their canvas. I may be, let's say you're saying to yourself, I may be 30 pounds heavier than I want to be now, but I'm actually a thin person who just put on 30 pounds, as opposed to I've always been a heavy person. They have an open canvas for you. So shift your canvas to their mind when they met you for the first time. Your boss meeting you for the first time, your colleagues meeting you for the first time, your first time on a date, someone's never met you before. Well, hopefully you've met before, but but somebody who doesn't know you, paint their canvas with your evidence for yourself. That's one way that you can put yourself on reset. And that way you can get aware of also all the negative thoughts that you have, all the negative affirmations that you have that are automatic. And that if somebody has a brand new canvas, you could paint it however you want. Again, not wishful thinking, not making something up that doesn't exist, but extracting from you the positives that are already there, the strengths and resources that are already there, and shifting and reframing the beliefs you have about yourself. Like you could, like I said, you could say, I'm somebody who's learning how to be an incredible salesperson, but I am an incredible salesperson. I haven't met my quota yet, but I'm on my way. As opposed to, I'm a failure. I've never met that kind of sales quota before. Or like I said about the weight, I'm a thin person who's put on 30 pounds, who's been carrying an extra 30 pounds for a while. Now I'm going to take it off. As opposed to, I've always been 30 pounds overweight. I've always been a chunky kid. And I realize there's a lot of history in our lives, whether it's weight or success or self-esteem or shame or whatever it may be, social anxiety, whatever it may be. There's a lot of evidence that you have for who you are and who you believe yourself to be. But when you meet somebody for the first time who doesn't know you, there's an empty canvas there. And that happens all the time. Imagine yourself with an empty canvas. How could I reframe my life? How could I reframe my thoughts? And positive affirmations will fit right in there. Your brain will be very happy that you're, okay, good. Let's start over. I have no problem with this, Yeah. So that's one thing I tell people. Imagine, or I also tell people, imagine that, say your best friends or your parents or people who or teachers, whoever put that negative or helped to put that negative core belief or negative core beliefs into your existence. Imagine you had been raised by somebody else. Imagine you had been, people talk about their best friend's family who they spent a lot of time with. Imagine that those were your parents. Not to, negate your own parents, but just imagine hypothetically you were raised by somebody else in a different place. So you had a different set of friends or you had a different set of influences. How would you have developed from that experience? So how would your thoughts have been different? And you can begin to realize that your thoughts are not universal. They're not objective. They're subjective based on what was placed there, based on what you interpreted about yourself because of who you were raised by, what you were raised around. Imagine you had been raised differently. Would you not feel differently about yourself? Well, doesn't that stand to reason that that is a possible way of viewing yourself? So that's evidence for neuroplasticity right there. That's evidence that positive affirmations will work. Just that alone, right? So yeah. And I get excited about this stuff because I think I really think it works,
Yeah,
so,
yeah. And so do I. And it's really, for me, I highly suggest that to pick one thing that you feel would make your life, more meaningful, that will improve the quality of your life, and then to work on that, to stick with one thing at a time, and practice a mantra or a positive affirmation in that particular direction until you get that, because the more you practice it, the more it'll become a part of your daily life, and once you've mastered that in both mentally, physically, and spiritually, then you can move on to something else. But this could include a relationship. Like if you have trouble with someone and you really want that person to love you, or you want to love them and be in a relationship with them, you can make a mantra about that and say, I want this X person to feel comfortable with me, or me and X, get along very well. And when you repeat that over and over, me and X get along really well. And what's really cool about this mantra things and positive affirmations is that the more you practice it and say it over and over, your subconsciousness starts to grab the information and the whatever abilities you need to create into your system, into your life, and it sort of runs the program, and then you start acting and moving in that direction, and you start becoming that thing, and then eventually it becomes your life because you've been practicing it over and over. And this goes the other way around. When we talked about I'm always late, or I'm never successful in business, or my relationships never work, or why do I always meet men that cheat on me or women that cheat on me, or I'm always crashing, I'm always prone to accidents, or I am always the one left behind, just all these negative things. We say them over and over, and then eventually they become a reality. And so the idea is to change or reframe, like you said, in a positive way, which is why we call them positive affirmations. So pick one. It could be as simple as Googling, some of the top, 10 positive affirmations. I've done this before. And then there's some really good ones that come up. Well, whatever you pick, make sure that it's something that you feel in your, core that would be useful and that would actually help you improve your life. And then as you do it, the better you feel it and believe it and repeat it over and over, no matter what comes up, because sometimes, there'll be negative things coming back up and saying, no, you can't do that. No, it's not for you, blah, blah, blah. Well, just keep saying it over and over until that thing washes over, and then you can start to create that, whatever it is you want. I just finished, by the way, a video that's going to come out. Actually, no, by the time this comes out, it would be published already in my YouTube channel for loving kindness meditation, which is, it's a meditation that I've been doing for years. And it's really interesting because when I was recording it a couple weeks ago, I realized how important this meditation is, because it's about love. And part of this meditation, which I love, is you have to feel the love inside of you first before you can give it to other people. And it's very, it's been scientifically proven to be one of the best meditations that can really improve your life for months. But it's basically because you're creating love and feeling love, and there's some positive affirmations that you give into yourself, and then eventually you give those to others. And by doing that, by giving love that you've created, you actually improve your well-being and your life, and it's just unbelievable. So hopefully people can listen to it. Just look for Robert Aceves on YouTube, and I should be the first one that comes up, and then you can listen to it on there. Hopefully you like it, and leave me a comment and let me know. So, and that's my commercial. Sorry about that.
That's great. That's great. I hope people do take advantage of that. Absolutely. And I think one of the biggest precursors to all this is having confidence. Confidence in yourself, confidence in the ability to change the way that you think and the way that you view yourself. And I think that it's okay to be wrong. And I think people have to remember that in confidence. Confidence is not the lack of fear. Confidence is having the fear and the doubts and the anxieties and the sadness and the helplessness and all the feelings that you have, and taking action alongside the feelings. So it's okay to be wrong. It's okay to make a mistake. It's okay to fumble. It's okay to try and not succeed, as opposed to, don't say fail. Try and not succeed, as opposed to failing. Then just, reset and keep trying again. And I think the opposite of confidence is not fear. The opposite of confidence, to me, is cynicism, because I hear a lot of cynicism from a lot of clients. If you try to give them positive affirmations saying, I love myself, I believe in my skills and abilities, I believe I can do it, a lot of people scoff at that, especially if they've been around a long time. And I think cynicism is a form of grief. It's Dr. Joan Rosenberg, who's one of my favorite psychologists that I refer to quite a bit for a lot of my clients, will talk about grief in our past. And cynicism is an indicator that there's a lot of grief from your past, a lot of core emotions that are very wounding, that are very painful, that we do everything and anything we can to distract from and not feel, not experience. So not trying because we're afraid to fail is a way of avoiding feeling those uncomfortable wounds. So we will not try, and as a result, we become cynical about people who talk about positive affirmations or anything what we're talking about, because they want to believe it's true, but they don't believe it's true, and they protect themselves with this calcified cynicism about how it's BS. And just recognize, if you were one of those people, that your BS part of self, your cynical part of self, is just protecting you from not feeling these emotional wounds, this grief, that it's okay to feel. So being confident in trying on positive affirmations and or doing all that we're talking about, it does not mean that you're going to avoid feeling uncomfortable or feeling upset or feeling sad or feeling scared or any of those things. Those things are going to be a part of it, and that's okay. It's okay to be wrong. It's okay to make a mistake. It's okay to not know, to truly not know, not say I don't know when you actually know, but it's okay to walk with uncertainty. But cynicism, if you find yourself being cynical, check in, because underneath the cynicism, there's an ocean of emotions down there that need to be heard so that you can get some power back and and practice positive affirmations and with confidence. So just wanted to say that.
Okay. I feel like that's one of the best parts about positive affirmations is that as you repeat them over and over, I feel like all that stuff can be washed away, and that's the beauty of it. So I'm glad you said that, because I do feel like it's also important, and there will be people that feel that way. But at the end of the day, remember, just say it, keep saying it. Eventually, hopefully you get through all that and get to the beautiful part of it. And thank you for saying all that, Neil. Any last words before we end this podcast?
I would say, I know it's really rough out there right now, and people, like we said earlier when we first started, are reaching new levels of crises or anxiety and depression. It's never too late to start positive affirmations. Even with all that's going on out there, we can still extract some good from within ourselves, and just, put yourself on reset and begin now. Don't wait until things lift. Don't wait until things pass over or blow over. Say, okay, I'll do my positive affirmations, but I'll do them when the lockdown's over, or I'll do them, when the smoke clears. How about starting today? Because right now is when I think everybody, yourself and everybody else, needs it the most, because we are reaching a point of, real tenseness. So start now. Start now.
Yes. Write it down, put it on a piece of paper in front of your bed or in front of your desk, wherever you need it, so you can repeat it every day, that a week from now, a month from now, a year from now, you still have that positive affirmation, and repeat it over and over until it becomes a reality. Do not wait until later. Like you said, this is the time. This is something that can really help you, save you a lot of money on going to the hospital. But at the end of the day, please, if you need to go to the hospital, need to look for a doctor, don't hesitate. You know yourself better than anybody. And if you need, help, also reach out. You can call me or Neil. We're here for you. If you need somebody to talk to, there's always help if you look for it. So don't wait, and hopefully you can use this positive affirmations. Like I said, I have multiple meditations on my channel that can help you with that. There's also binaural beats, if anyone's interested in that. Those are, sounds that can literally put you in a different frequency simply by listening to it. It takes about 15 minutes for your brain to synchronize with a different frequency. So there's literally frequencies for happiness, for people to get out of depression, for many different things. And you can use this, and it's, again, scientifically proven. So just go on YouTube and look for that. So there's definitely a lot of tools that you can use in this time of need, and hopefully this podcast helped you. So thank you for listening. And remember, we're here every Tuesday. Thank you for everyone who's been sending their comments, questions. We love them, and please continue to send us your comments and what you think. And thank you to all the people that are donating to this podcast as well. Thank you. We really appreciate that. And we'll talk to you next week on Tuesday. Thanks, Neil.
All right. Thank you. Have a great week, everybody.
Same to you. Bye.
All right. Bye-bye.
This podcast is brought to you by MindFit. Please help us to share this podcast with your friends and family to grow this community. And if you'd like to donate to this podcast, or if you'd like to share your comments, questions, or concerns, send them to mindfitpodcast@gmail.com, or you can call us directly at 714-328-4661.